Atypical is ostensibly a show about an autistic 18-year-old man who is becoming interested in dating.
Julia thinks that I should put myself out there and find someone to have sex with. Well, she didn't say the sex part, I added that.
In actuality, Atypical is more often a show about the family of an autistic person, which uses autism as a narrative and comedic device rather than focusing on Sam, the autistic character.
This was the exact face he made when I surprised him with Mets tickets. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I wanted us to just have one thing in common. Just one thing. Me and my dad used to go to the ball games all the time. I think that's all right that Sam's gonna try to date. I mean, you and I were much older when we met, and that was fun, right? We had a good time.
Sam's not like us, Doug.
I know, but he has to start.
Do you know that every time the phone rings, I jump? Every time. I think he's crossed the street again with his eyes closed. Or he had a freak out in a store, or he's hit a police officer. Every time the phone rings.
I know, but maybe now it's time for us to take a step back.
For the time that Sam is on screen, his storyline mainly involves wanting to find a girlfriend and have sex. However, despite the title clearly being a reference to him, the majority of screen time is devoted to the various storylines which Sam's parents, Elsa and Doug, as well as his sister, Casey, are involved in, as well as the storylines of a few other ancillary characters. This will likely feel familiar to autistic people who know better than anyone that the narrative around autism is often focused on non-autistic family members. When Sam is on screen, he is often the butt of the joke, displaying a wide variety of not always consistent traits which are common among autistic people.
That chick, bubble butt by the monitors.
What about her?
Dude, she's smiling right at you.
Oh. So?
Smile back.
Really?
Keir Gilchrist as Sam gets a few things right, but it mostly feels like he and the writers are just throwing as much stereotypical autism-related stuff at the audience as they can and hoping some of it sticks. Personally, like many other autistic people, I would have preferred the role go to an autistic person and the writing be done by an autistic person. For a variety of reasons, Sam often comes across as more of an amalgamation of autistic traits based on research rather than a three-dimensional character. Autism is often used in Atypical to provide narrative conflict for non-autistic characters instead of simply being a part of who Sam is.
Hey, Sam, this would look very handsome on you for such a winter.
Julia says I need to pick my own clothes, not you.
Well, screw Julia.
Okay, that's okay. I'm gonna text him. Thank you for trying, Beth.
Seriously? I knew you were nervous, but picking up a phone call in the middle of an interview and now you're texting? Come on, are you trying to blow this?
My brother's autistic.
Well, I'm a dick.
Oh, no, that's okay. Don't worry. You didn't know.
I'm not upset. It's just that you're implying that I worry over nothing.
Well, I mean, sometimes you do. I mean, who cares? Sam wants to date. That's good. That's a good thing. He's 18. It'd be weird if he didn't want to date.
Because, Doug, it's not just dating. First it's dating, and then he's graduating, and then he's moving out into the world, and we can't protect him, and that is terrifying.
But that's what we want for him, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we want for him that aren't possible for him.
How do you know?
I'm the one that's been with him for these last 18 years. You've never been close to him. You don't even try. I mean, honestly, there's times I think you don't even like him.
That's what you think? I love our son. I always have. Has it been hard to connect with him? Yeah, it has been. I thought he'd be more like me or like you. He's not like either one of us or anyone else I've ever met.
Overall, I found the show to be a disappointing example of autism in media, and in this video I'll explain why. Sam is established very early on as displaying many of the traits common among autistic people. In the opening scene he stims, perseverates, and is overly blunt. He regularly says things which are honest in his opinion but can be hurtful to others.
I found the pros and cons list that you made about me.
No, he wouldn't do that, would you?
I would, and I did.
You wrote a burn book about the only girl that's ever been into you? That's hilarious.
Sam often describes traits he experiences in relation to being autistic.
People think autistic people don't have empathy, but that's not true. Sometimes I can't tell if someone's upset, but once I know, I feel lots of empathy. Maybe even more than neurotypicals. Being in a loud, unfamiliar place can be hard for me. I can't think, I can't listen, I just freeze. But don't worry, I have a strategy. Floor here's kind of sticky. People think I don't know when I'm being picked on, but I do. I just don't always know why, which in some ways is worse.
This same basic formula is used over and over again. Sam explains something, which almost always has to do with autism or Antarctica, and it tends to sound like it was copied verbatim from a textbook.
It takes me a while to get used to new things, but once I get used to something, I come to rely on it.
Most of his interactions with other people seem either meant to make the audience laugh at him or cringe at his behavior, which is often wildly inappropriate.
Sam, what are you doing?
What do you mean?
You can't climb through people's windows. It's illegal.
Well, I couldn't ring the doorbell. Her boyfriend works weird hours, so she doesn't like it when people come to the door because he might be sleeping. It's one of their rules. I like rules. They make things clear. Before I do something, I like to know all the rules.
But she has a boyfriend? What kind of teenager lives with her boyfriend?
Julia's not a teenager. She's 26 3/4.
Julia, your therapist? Sam, let's go.
Sam's focus is almost entirely on dating and having sex. The show establishes early on that he has a job in an electronics store, but it's only discussed in depth once. Employment is a serious issue in the autistic community, but unfortunately the show breezes right past it. My issue with the depiction of Sam isn't that it gets nothing right about autism. My issue is that it seems to shoehorn in as much about autism as possible. It almost feels as if the show is trying too hard to convince us that Sam is autistic. Gilchrist does a decent job with avoiding eye contact and stimming, though his resting face seems closer to discomfort than the more or less neutral facial expression I often see in autistic people. He also displays fairly typical intonation and inflection in speech, lacking the speech patterns common among autistic people.
My school is crowded, noisy, and it smells weird. But it has one thing going for it. It has lots of girls. Well, I think every girl is pretty in her own way. Like a snowflake in a seasonal Antarctic storm.
Personally, I would have preferred the character not be a straight white male, as autism is already stereotypically associated with straight white men. The diversity of autistic people is not represented in media, nor is it widely recognized in society, which has a serious negative effect when it comes to diagnosis and getting support. The writing for Sam can be a bit inconsistent. The show establishes constantly, often for comedic effect, that Sam doesn't recognize figures of speech. Yet in the first episode, he describes why he likes Antarctica in a manner which feels like a clear metaphor for himself.
Antarctica is the most remote continent on the planet. It has 90% of the world's ice, but it's considered a desert because the annual rainfall is only about 8 inches. You wouldn't think it was a desert when you looked at it. That's why I like it. It's not what it looks like.
He also shows a desire to learn rules and an ability to memorize information, yet doesn't memorize common expressions of speech. The show is full of these contradictions when it comes to the depiction of Sam. He says often that he likes to research and learn information and rules, yet multiple times does either illegal or inappropriate things which he should likely know not to do given his other behavior and interactions.
In science, observable evidence plays a key role in discovery. But to really understand it, you have to ask questions. Excuse me, Bailey? I'm the boy whose sister punched you. I noticed yesterday that you were kissing Henry, and today you're kissing Arlo, and I was wondering, how did he woo you? And please, be specific.
Dude, what the hell?
I'm doing research on how to steal a woman, and Bailey is the perfect test subject because she's a skank.
Hey!
So you're doing research on how to steal a woman? Awesome.
Arlo, be nice.
You trying to get laid, Sam?
You gonna tap some ass?
At one point he says he feels more empathy than others, which many autistic people express, and points out that it's a misconception that autistic people don't feel empathy, but his behavior is decidedly not empathetic.
Julia. Julia!
What's that now?
It's okay. He blurs things out. Sometimes it's normal. Is everything okay, Sam?
Paige, I'm sorry to inform you of this, but I shouldn't be here because I don't love you.
What?
I don't love you. I thought I did because you passed a simple checklist test that I devised, but it turns out the simpler test was just knowing, and you failed that one. So I think we should break up.
Sam is often confused about things which should have probably been explained to him by age 18, and it seems like it's intended to be humorous, but it's really just perplexing more than anything. In the course of the series, Sam goes to school, works at his job, and tries to find a girlfriend. He also tries to figure out if he's in love with his eventual girlfriend Paige, ultimately deciding that he's actually in love with his therapist Julia. There's almost no character development, with him seemingly not learning from most of his actions, but conveniently learning the lessons which move the plot forward. It's unclear whether Sam's lack of development as a character is intentional, or simply a side effect of him not being fully fleshed out with any traits other than the ones associated with him being autistic. The other characters get slightly more development. Sam's mom, Elsa, maintains her schedules, takes care of everything, is overbearing and controlling.
Light is so harsh in here. It's like, do you want your sunglasses?
No,
Boop, boop, boop. Does that sound annoying?
it's annoying when you make it.
Do you want your headphones?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Is this something you really want? I mean, you want to date? Aren't you afraid of getting hurt?
Well, not unless I date a great white shark. No, I know what you mean. You mean my feelings, right?
Yeah.
Talking to girls makes me a little nervous, but Julia says it's good to do things that scare you.
Sometimes. Fear is also there for a biological reason. I mean, fight or flight, right? Like if I'm walking down a dark alley and I start to feel afraid, that's my body trying to protect me from gang boys with knives.
Mom, I'm getting older, and at some point I really, really hope that I get to see boobs.
A large part of her storyline involves having an affair with a bartender named Nick and coming to terms with Sam transitioning towards adulthood. His dad, Doug, is a typical guy who works as an EMT and wishes he and Sam were closer.
You know, it was hard when your brother was born. It was hard having a son who didn't smile and look you in the eye. And I kept thinking things would get better and he would grow out of it, and then he was diagnosed, and you know, Mom threw herself in all of it with the support groups and the special diets, and she was great. I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
His younger sister Casey is a track star who is trying to figure out her future and is starting to date also. They often discuss Sam being autistic in relation to what they have to do for him or think they have to do for him, which unsurprisingly tends to overshadow what he actually wants from his life.
Apparently I like Paige.
Apparently I like it when you knock.
And now she's not my girlfriend because of you. You drove her away.
Okay, well, all you do is complain about her. And I get it, she's super annoying.
Well, I like her, I think. And You're my little sister, and I don't need you messing with my life.
Oh my God, I was just trying to help. You know, I'm not always gonna be around to stick up for you.
Sam's best friend Zahid is sometimes cringe-inducing with overly sexual comments, sometimes funny, and is a good friend to him even if he gives him bad advice.
Oh, hell yes. Slow clap, all the points.
Zippers, buckles, flaps, I hate it.
Trust me, leather jackets are chick magnets. I wore one of these to a co-ed wedding shower and got a 2-hour foot massage from the bride's cousin. Not the hot one, but the hot enough one.
Sam also has a therapist named Julia, who he has romantic feelings for, leading to a variety of incredibly inappropriate actions by him.
Sam? What are you doing here? We don't have an appointment.
I know, but I wanted to tell you something, and I wanted to do it in person because this message involves a gift.
Okay.
Julia, I've wanted you to be my girlfriend since the day that I gave you my brain. But then I learned that you have a boyfriend and about something called a conflict of interest. So on my father's suggestion, I got a practice girlfriend named Paige to prepare for the day when you and I could be together.
Okay, Sam, no.
And now I believe that I'm ready. I know how to dance and go to the mall, and that it's inappropriate to lock a woman in your closet, and I've seen boobs, really nice ones. It was so cool.
He eventually starts dating a girl named Paige, who likes him a lot and is controlling and quirky.
Two are spending an awful lot of time together.
Well, that's what couples do.
Couples. That's what couples do. Sounds very official.
Oh, well, actually, I brought a snack, but it's sort of that dense, chewy kind, you know, that maybe you can't eat the whole thing. So do you want to go halvesies?
We could be like Arctic foxes sharing food with our den mates.
Card. Thank you. Oh, this is a new system I developed so that Sam doesn't annoy people with Antarctica facts. I give him 3 cards at the beginning of every day, and then when he talks about Antarctica, I take one away. So when he's all out of cards, he can't talk about it anymore. That's the rule, right, Sam? I decorated it with puffy paint.
Sam, are you okay with this?
I think it's dumb, but other people seem to be happy, mostly Paige.
He later dumps her in front of her entire family. Sam's parents handle him being autistic in very different ways. Elsa goes to a support group for parents of autistic people, which Doug only attends once and has his use of identity first language corrected by one of the other parents.
We had an incident the other day that was upsetting at our daughter Casey's track meet, and Sam grabbed this girl's ponytail, and I honestly didn't know what to do. And then this girl was screaming, and my autistic kid was...
Oh, Doug, so sorry. But we actually prefer to use people-first language here.
He takes a hands-off approach, seemingly disconnecting to some extent in order to protect his own feelings.
It's the same with you. You're not out at work because you're ashamed.
No, I'm not ashamed. Elsa, I'm not ashamed of anything, okay? I just like to keep my work life and my personal life separate. I'm not ashamed. It's just how I am. It's a guy thing.
Yeah, I just could never be that way. Not with someone I work with every day, someone I'm friends with. It's a huge part of my identity.
Yeah, but maybe it shouldn't be.
What?
But everything with you revolves around being a mom. Maybe sometimes you should just, you know, be like an individual person.
I am an individual person.
No, I don't think you are. You know, everything is Sam this and autism that. Maybe it's time for you to step back and have your own life.
Elsa, on the other hand, has built an identity on mothering an autistic child, and now finds her life quickly becoming devoid of that pursuit, throwing her sense of self into chaos. Scenes which reinforce the idea of autistic people as a burden are plentiful throughout the series, which is unfortunately quite common with media involving autism.
I'm being recruited by Clayton Prep. Yeah, I guess they saw my last race, and yeah, I don't know, they want me.
Wow. Clayton? That's huge.
Yeah, right?
Wow. How far away is Clayton? I mean, would you have to leave Newton?
No, Mom, I love high school so much, I get it both. No, they want me to start right away. What do you guys think?
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
There's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, for sure. We have to figure it out.
I mean, you know, I'm sorry, honey, but I don't think there's any way that this could work. I mean, we need you at the same school as Sam, right? But we'll wait and we'll talk about it when your friends aren't here.
Casey brings up more than once that her parents are usually focused much more on Sam than on her, again placing the importance on non-autistic characters rather than Sam, which the series consistently does. While it's certainly true that some autistic kids get more attention or focus than their non-autistic siblings, that shouldn't be a major focus of a story which is ostensibly about an autistic character. That's the problem with so much of Atypical. It's clear that the focus is not actually on the autistic character, but rather on how him being autistic affects the people around him. This is very common in media representation of autism when the writer isn't autistic. Autistic people aren't consulted, considered, or included, and the whole focus is on how us struggling through life makes things worse for others. Then non-autistic people act surprised that no one wants to employ us, that we're more likely to be victims of violence, and that society looks down on us. It is unfortunately rare for a television show or movie to have an autistic character. Occasionally something comes out which does, and many autistic people such as myself get our hopes up that it'll be accurate and positive in its representation of autism. Atypical is not one of those shows. In fact, it's hard for me to even say that Atypical is a show about autism. Mostly, it's just about non-autistic people having interpersonal and life issues, and autism is haphazardly forced into the narrative, seemingly to provide conflict and struggle for the non-autistic characters. Sam is repeatedly portrayed in a terrible light, not caring about others and even pushing one girl and pulling the hair of another because it was hitting him in the face inadvertently at his sister's track meet. He has possibly the least depth of any character on the show. Other than him liking Antarctica and things related to it and wanting to have sex, Sam has almost no actual personality. The writing relies on him being autistic and thus a bit eccentric or quirky in order to make him interesting, and unfortunately it seems like that's almost all there is to him. It comes across as someone trying to write an autistic character by writing a neurotypical character and adding a ton of traits from the DSM-5. The moments which are seemingly meant to humanize Sam through humor rely on laughs derived from him acting in a stereotypically quote-unquote autistic manner, i.e., not understanding figures of speech, being awkward, etc. It is fundamentally written to evoke laughter at Sam from the audience. Between the lackluster writing for Sam and the fact that he's not on screen for even half of most episodes, it's hard to understand why this show was named for and advertised as a series about an autistic person, other than to bring in an audience from the autistic community. Some people will enjoy it, possibly family members of autistic people who will find the events within it relatable, but it is by no means a show for autistic people. Scenes with Sam make up less than 50% of the runtime of the series, and he's off screen for segments of that time. There is seemingly little to no concern for how it portrays autism or the ways it affects the perception of autism, and in my opinion is much closer to exploitation than representation. I don't personally believe that this show displays or promotes a positive view of autistic people. Unfortunately, it seems the autistic community will continue to wait for real representation which doesn't exclude us, harm us, or portray us negatively.